Hey, hi, hello. Welcome to episode 99 of Trail Society, produced by Freetrail, brought to you by Rabbit. I'm Corinne Malcolm.
I'm Keely Henninger.
And I'm Hillary Allen.
And the elephant in the room, Keely, how's that poison oak going?
Oh, it's going. It's definitely running its course. It was pretty painful all week because I was trying to study. I had so many exams and you're just like not moving and it's so annoying. But I think it's finally turned a slight corner, which is great. Like I'm not thinking about it all day, which is awesome. But yeah, you like couldn't see my legs when it was first bad and they were so swollen and it was so nasty. But I've been on prednisone now for 5 days and I feel like it's finally kind of working, which is great. And I got a ton of nice home remedies from a lot of people yesterday on Instagram, giving me lots of advice on like how to make the itch go away. And so I've been trying some other things and it's definitely working, which is nice. But yeah, not fun, guys. Like, oh my gosh.
Yeah, it's
Ugh.
it's a nightmare. I feel like I've gotten it more than my fair share over the last
Mm-hmm.
like 5 or 6 years. When we lived in the Bay, it was just like you're gonna get
Mm-hmm.
it. And yeah,
Yeah,
it's
I've just never got it this
nasty.
bad. Yeah.
Yeah, I've
And
never gotten it before.
people will
Ugh.
also be like, how did I get it on my abdomen or like on my like elbow or whatever? Like it makes sense if it's on your legs because like maybe
Yeah.
that's what's hitting. But what people don't realize is that the oil gets onto other plants as
Mm-hmm.
well. It's not just the poison oak. That
Mm.
poison oak oil will be on other plants. And because Canyons was so wet and rainy this year, I think it was probably just like on a bunch
Mm.
of stuff and you guys were getting like car washed
Mm-hmm.
along the river. And so I'm sure you just got like coated in it.
Yeah. And I feel like it's like there's some stat that you could infect every single person in the United States with like a gallon of poison oak oil. That's how little you need per person to like infect them. So it's almost like if you just kind of touched your leg and then put it anywhere, like that can
Yeah.
spread so easily.
Yikes.
Yeah. Well, I'm
Yeah,
glad
not
that you're
fun, but it was well worth
starting.
it.
Yeah, I think it was worth it,
Yeah, like
personally.
there was a time
Personally.
where you're just like running down Cal Street and you're like, I feel like a sacrificial lamb right now. Like I'm just throwing my body into this like like so much poison oak.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, you looked phenomenal out there. I couldn't tell that you were covered in poison oak yet, but it does show up a couple days later. We're recording this on May the 4th, be with you. So post Canyons, pre Tiger Claw. Hillary, I know that you just got home from the Bay Area, turning things around. You ready for your trip to Seattle?
Yeah, actually, it's kind of a busy couple weeks, but I'm so excited. It's gonna be beautiful springtime, green. I feel like I was just there for Brooks Camp, but I wasn't there long enough, so it'll be nice to be there for a couple more days and run up and down Tiger Mountain a bunch.
Yeah, what's on the docket for you when it comes to this Tiger Claw race weekend trip?
Yeah, so I get to lead a Brooks run on Thursday from the Brooks headquarters. So that'll be fun. And then just joining in for all the fun. I'm just excited that Rabbit is gonna be there, like the title sponsor for Tiger Claw this year. So just to show up and support them in a cool way. Since obviously they're our title sponsor of our podcast. So just joining all the runs that I can. I'm gonna do the Ascent on Friday night. Gonna join the shakeout run Friday morning at 8 a.m. and then the Tiger Claw itself, and then just be reunited with a bunch of different friends. I hear that the aid stations are just on fire at that race. So I'm really excited for the just community event.
Yeah, yeah, they're two aid stations, a lower and an upper aid station, and they do a phenomenal job. I'll be the host for the Friday morning shakeout run.
Yeah.
And rumor has it Top Pot Donuts is the sponsor for that run. So if you're listening to this, maybe you should, and you live in the Seattle area, and or you're doing Tiger Claw, come out for the shakeout run Friday morning at High Point. We'll put out stuff online. It'll be on the Tiger Claw Instagram page, etc. But yeah, I'm gonna be the lead for that, and we've got donuts coming for everyone. So bring your appetite because it's gonna be a lot of fun. Super chill shakeout. Run. My mom's gonna be there. It's gonna be great. But yeah, so Rabbit is the presenting sponsor for Tiger Claw in like the full meal deal this year. And we have a new code for you all. You obviously saw Keely come across the finish line holding that giant golden ticket above her head in the UPF deflector hoodie, which looked amazing. Hopefully that kept the poison oak off your armies. Don't know if it did or not, but the code, if you want to go snag some sweet rabbit gear for the month of May, you can go over to their website and when at checkout use Trail Bunny 10 and that's going to give you 10% off anything over there on the website. So I would take that discount code out for a spin if I were you.
I think the discount code is so fun for this
Yeah.
month.
Trail Bunny 10 for May. It's very cute. It's post Easter, but also like very happy. Um, so today's episode, just so you all are aware, is dedicated to our queen, Keely. She hates it. She's already embarrassed by it. She doesn't want to talk, but we're going to make her tell us everything, in part because you guys came back with a ton of amazing questions that will help us get through her race recap, I think, in a really cool way. But before we do that, I just want to blitz through the results from the 100K there in particular, just to set the stage. It was amazing on all sides. Like fast times. The course had a slight modification that made it maybe run 10 minutes faster than last year's course, but ostensibly we're calling it the same course. It is in every other way. Francesco Pupi runs a 40-minute course record, turns down his ticket, so it rolls to Hans Troyer in second, takes the ticket. Hannes Naumberger in third, takes the ticket. Jeff Mogavero's already in the race. So the final third ticket in the men's race rolls to Ryan Montgomery in fifth, getting what, probably his like second or third ticket probably into Western States via the golden ticket system. So really excited to have Ryan Montgomery back at Western States again this year. It was cool to watch him be in the hunt all day long. On the women's side, Emily Hawgood smashed it out of the park. Second fastest time ever. Not very many people have gone under 10 hours. Katie Scheide's 9:10 is next level out of this world. But really cool to see Emily just like go from the gun and push all day. She's super talented. She'll be going for her fifth top 10 finish at Western States this year, but hasn't really gotten that big win that we know she's capable of. So that was super cool. She battled all day with Marianne Hogan. There's like a 2 mile, 20-ish minute video up on the Freetrail YouTube account of just her, Marianne, and Emily like duking it out all the way up the climb. Marianne gets that first ticket back into Western States. Emily's already in. Sitting in third place, our queen, Keely Henninger, comes across the line in third, snags the second golden ticket, and then was in an epic battle all day with Erin Clark, who finishes fourth and gets that final golden ticket. Her third attempt in three golden ticket races, Javelina Black Canyons. So
So
super
crazy.
cool. Yeah, like just freaking cool. And her fiance Adam Peterman will also be racing Western States. So we've got some good couple action with the absence of Rachel Drake and Tyler Green this year. And then we have to give a super special shout out to our very own Hannah Allgood for taking the win in the 50K. That was freaking exciting. She will be towing the line at Western States as well. Tabor Hemming finished second, and I don't know if you guys have seen this. If you don't follow the Hemmings YouTube channel or their Substack, you should. It's really good. But in some very sad news, they wrote about how Tabor's dad, the week of Canyons, was diagnosed with stage 4 metastatic melanoma. And so, which is a really not a great prognosis when you have metastasized melanoma. It's like not great. So send all of your love to the Hemming Scholl households for Shooter. Um, that's kind of a wild diagnosis for them to be dealing with right now and in the midst of race season. I think just adds an extra layer of things to everything. So I have to give them a shout out. And then behind Tabor was Kimmy Schreiber, another Adidas Terex athlete, making it a sweep in the women's 50K for Adidas, which was also pretty special to see out there. So I guess with that, with my monologue being done, we can move to the Keely monologue part of the episode. Okay.
Interrupted by you guys, though, please.
We will interrupt you. To kick things off, I really liked this question because I think it's been on a lot of people's minds.
Mm.
Actually, my friend Nikki Burma was running with her today, and she asked me this question on our run. So it is on top of mind. So this listener wrote in, this made me so happy. When did she decide to go for a golden ticket? And what changed her mind about Western States, i.e., why back to Western States now, given your history with the race, given that you are in medical school, all that jazz. Why Western States? Why go for a golden ticket?
I mean, the very first answer is really not that exciting, but I have summer break and it happens to be the week of Western States. And I was given that schedule when we started school. And so that kind of prompted me to start thinking about the idea. But then on a more serious note, I had been talking with my coach for a long time and really just wanted to get to a spot where I was able to train consistently for like 10 months and feel good. And I've been doing that and it feels really nice. And I feel like I've got a lot of things going well. And so basically come January, I started to consider going back for the ticket, like actually seriously. And what ultimately ended up changing my mind is that I've had a lot of tragedy with Western states, and last year was a year where I was unable to go back mentally. Like, even trying would have been disastrous. I like needed to work through a lot last year with that. And I think this year I've started to make a lot of changes in my mental strength around those things that happened and kind of acknowledge that they happened and acknowledge that they were really tragic, but that I do really want to go back to this race and give it all I got and just finish and feel really proud of that. And I've just been working a lot on that mental side. And I think coming through that mental, like, kind of breakthrough really like solidified my desire to go and my desire to like go for it once I got to this race. Because going for it's really scary when you associate going for something with dislocating your shoulder. And so I've just been working a lot on that mental side of things, of just being excited about states and also allowing myself to grieve how insane it has been, but then kind of getting past that grief to be excited again and to treat this as like a new journey. And then, yeah, I got really excited leading into the race to just make new memories on the course and have those memories to pull on when I go back to states and not all of those other memories.
It's going to be about 1,000 degrees hotter.
Yeah, well, that's fine.
You're like, I'm excited about that actually. I guess to start, I set up the questions to kind of be pre-Western states, i.e., focused on the training you did going into the race. And so the first question that I have in this section says, I'm curious if you might be able to talk a little bit more about the training leading up. I know you touched on the balancing act with medical school in a prior episode, which we'll touch on more a little bit. Balance is a big question for you, but I'm curious if there are things that you've come to prioritize when you're short on time, i.e., strength and lifting, a workout, a long run seems to be the key skip anything but items in the week. But are there things you found with running maybe slightly lower mileage that has been working for you? And then maybe also like just touching on my mind, like what training volume did look like on
Hmm.
kind of the average of the last couple months.
Yeah, and I'd love to hear your guys's like skip anything but type things you put into your week too, because I think they vary, but I think we'll probably have some similarities. I think my biggest thing was to not even have a skip anything but mindset for me. And it was just if I was absolutely toasted in a week and I needed to do a workout, I would punt it and I wouldn't do it. And maybe I would do it on the weekend, but sometimes I would just skip it. And I had to be okay with that. Because I was trying to prioritize feeling good and like taking time, like when I was feeling good to actually do a workout. But if I was feeling so drained and it was hard to get out the door, and it was 7 p.m. and I just worked for, 14 hours, then I just skipped it. And so that's definitely not the norm. But I think when you're balancing this many things, like being recovered and having energy is way more important than trying to run 4 miles or 6 miles or whatever. But yeah, so that was probably my overall like mindset, was just to let myself be flexible for once and not be married to the training plan. But then a couple other things that really drove my training was like when I felt good was to like go for it and like make sure to like just push as hard as I can in workouts and like take advantage of time when I had extra time, extra energy, and all of that. And then one thing that my coach said that I think resonated a lot with me was to just keep batting singles. And like that was going to be way better than any home run that we hit during training, because the consistency would be way better than, maybe sacrificing all of my energy for a really big run, but then being totally depleted the next 2 days. And so some days it was like, oh, I'm supposed to run 8 miles today, but I don't really have the energy for that. I have some energy. So like my single is going to be 4 miles. And I was just kind of okay with that, which was a really fun mindset. I like took that and used that a lot for a lot of my athletes too, because I think it resonates really well. It's like, oh, I can't really bat a home run today, but I can totally bat a single.
I
And
like that so
so,
much.
right? Like it's not sexy, but it works. And so, yeah, I'd say nothing really remarkable in the training. I'd say just consistency. And then, yeah, mileage wise, I'd say pre Christmas kind of holiday, I was averaging like 70 to 80 miles a week. And then during Christmas kind of holidays, I had this weird sickness for a while. So I was kind of up and down for a while, but I'm typically sitting around that like 70 to 80 mile a week mark. And then post Big Alta, we kind of kicked off like a 20-day bigger training block just because it kind of aligned with a little bit lesser intense school. Not really, but I made it work where we were closer to that
You
100-mile a week
Yeah, you did.
mark.
Just to
But
remind people, you did a 50, we like recorded an episode and then you went and ran like a 32-mile training run.
mhm. Yeah, yeah. So we did a lot of bigger runs getting closer to the race just because it had been a while since I'd raced. And to me, the hardest part was remembering how to push and what it felt like to run long and actually push during the longer runs. And so it's kind of what we focused on towards the end. But it's kind of like what I tell a lot of my athletes, like when something's short term, like I knew I needed to prioritize running for 2 weeks, a little more than I had been to get to that higher volume. I was able to do that for those 20 days. To me, that's a lot more achievable than being like, I need to hit home runs all every day for 6 months. That's just completely not achievable, and I would not be doing well in school. So,
Yeah. I think my personal strategy has also shifted to that a bit of like doing what I need to do or like not doing what I need. Like need being like what does my body need? And so yeah, I've had weeks where I've punted the workout or like I, my long run is short versus I think in times past I'd be like all hell can break loose, but I'm gonna get the workout in and I'm gonna get the
mhm,
long run in. I'm gonna get my 2 quality sessions in per week and everything else can be chaos. But I think I've also gravitated more towards this like flexi program. And Hillary, I'm wondering, do you find a thing where it's like if I can get this and this done, great, versus like leaning into the flexibility factor.
Yeah, I mean, I try to have, I mean, I think maybe I'm a little bit different because I can't just do only run volume. Like I can't skip like mobility and strength days or else I do notice a difference. So that's kind of like so for me if I know I have like a hard day with an interval and usually on those days I do like a strength work, I'll like, cut back like the junk miles has actually been something that I've been doing or like even the junk like cycling because sometimes that can like make my legs feel heavy or it takes longer time. So the what I've been doing for the past like long time now is just overall less volume and just trying to have like those quality days. And sometimes for me it's a matter of honestly like sometimes if my ankles or my feet aren't feeling good, I can't just do a super long day. I have to break it up into doubles. Like that's actually doable for me. So it's like I can't practice like the super long stuff if I'm feeling particularly beat up. So I have to like do it, which sometimes doubles is really annoying way to train because it does take a lot of time and mental energy. But mostly it's like basically if I don't have enough mental strength, I know I have a hard day coming up on Tuesday, I can't really skip strength. I'll just like just cut it down on the day before. And so like come in kind of full force. But for
mhm,
me it's really like if I'm super busy, I just cut down volume on all levels and just, yeah.
mhm.
Yeah. So strength and mobility is probably that like cannot skip for you thing.
Yep,
Or like
that's definitely a not skip day.
that's a prioritized
Mhm.
item, which makes a ton of sense given kind of
Mhm.
injury patterns and like what's going to keep you super healthy. The next question in the training category goes like this. Well, there's a lot of like so happy for you, and that one kicks off this way too. So happy for you. As a person new to trail races, I have so many questions, and I love that your podcast is focused on women in sport. But I'm curious how tapering was for the 100K, and then specifically how might fueling look during a tapering week, and is that different than a training week?
I love this. I love this question because I feel like I talk with a lot of my athletes about fueling during a taper week. But to start off, yeah, my tapering was like around a 10-day, 12-day taper, so pretty long taper. Um, my coach just knew that I have a lot of stuff going on and that if I was like slightly overcooked from not having enough taper, that would be more harm than if I was like a little too tapered. So I tapered so hard, like didn't run super high volume. The weekend before, I think my longest run was 90 minutes. During the week leading up, I had one day fully off. The other days were no longer than an hour, no workouts, just easy miles. And yeah, really just like had fun with the run. So I ran with my dog once. I ran during the day with my training partner, Marianne, multiple days. Like we ran at 9 a.m. instead of at 5 a.m. And it was just like such a luxurious week. And then, yeah, for fueling, I don't eat a ton different than what I do during training weeks. because I think I don't want to change too much. And while I might not eat quite as much volume that I would if I was running, every day for multiple hours, I definitely don't skimp on anything. And I always use the like rule of thumb of like starting Tuesday before the race, like add in that extra scoop of rice, like full like extra cup of carbohydrates. Like that's something you can do leading into that race. And for me this week, again, I was just really vibing with the like springtime vibes, doing whatever made me excited. So my goal was just like to have like my favorite kind of like muffin or something every single day on top of all my regular food. And that was kind of my bonus carbohydrates. And it was amazing. Like I will credit that to all of my success. I think everyone should give themselves a little like taper week with their favorite foods and just like increase your foods with things you really like. It doesn't have to be stressful. Like if you don't like rice, don't add rice to your diet. Like add a muffin, add, whatever you want. But I think adding a little bit of extra carbs just to make sure that gas tank is full, not slightest bit under full when you start the race is so important.
Yeah. So I think that's like very key is that like nah, you're feeling the work still. And so while it might be a little bit more of a push on taper week, it's like I'm like, yeah, get it all in the system. Like let's know what my body wants and like add some treats in there as well. That might be a little bit extra on top. I think we got about a million iterations of how can this woman literally do it all at the highest level and then also be one of the kindest humans on earth? That was a submission. We also got a bunch of how the hell did she put in that training while in medical school? Slayer. So we're gonna spend some time talking about balance because I do think that was a very, I don't know, a very relevant topic here. A lot of people that listen live very busy lives, and I think being a medical student and performing at a high level in ultra running feels like a very hyped up version of that. But we can also like, we don't have children, like we have supportive partners, like we've got like a bunch of stuff going right for you outside of what you're doing, 18 hours a day effectively. So the first question to kind of kick that off goes, how did you manage stress in the lead up? You clearly rocked it. How does that feel, both the highs and the lows?
Yeah, good question. So I think for me, the stress leading up was not there because I didn't have time to think about the race that much. And I also was going into the race really excited to push again. And I also had so many other things on my mind that I wasn't really thinking about the stress of the race because I had other things I had to do before I could lead for the race. And so I think, looking back, the stress levels were really, really low. Like I slept every single night when I went to bed. I didn't, stay up thinking about the race. I didn't, wake up in the middle of the night. I didn't wake up early. And I've had that before leading into races where it's really hard to sleep, maybe a couple nights before. And I didn't have any of that. And I think it was because I had a lot of other things going on. And I also just put like low stress on myself for the race. I had some good talks with my husband before talking through like strategy and just like how to approach the race. And it was really just very joyful conversation. And I don't remember having that in the past couple of years because everything's been so tied to sponsorship and expectation and all of these things. And I don't have any other things going on. And I think it's really hard for me to like stay super sane when that happens. And so I think for this one, it was like, hey, we want to go and we want to show up and we want to push. And that's really fun. But I also like have all this other stuff I got to get done first, but we're still gonna go. Like we're gonna go do it. And somehow like having that balance, I think just really made the pressure stay low. And again, that might not work for everybody, but for me, like having other things going on just let me kind of go in with a little less stress than normal.
Yeah, there was a question that I'll kind of pull from the sponsorship bucket that someone basically asked, like, was medical school a pleasant distraction? Was that like actually a good distraction from the usual like pre-race stress that you might feel otherwise?
Totally. Yeah. I think it's a distraction from the stress, but I think it's also something that fills me with so much joy that I don't have that much negative stress. Like I have stress because it's hard, but I don't have any negative stress because I'm loving what I'm doing. And then that makes me love running as well. And so I feel like I'm just like doing these things that fill me up with so much joy. And I just feel gratitude for being able to do both of them. And that's really, really cool. And I feel like after the race, reflecting on it, it feels really cool to have had a really good day. But I feel like just how I ran, like regardless of the outcome, obviously the outcome went how I wanted it, but how I ran out there and how I felt, I just continued to feel happy and felt really stoked at pushing myself. I would have been happy with like any outcome at that point. It just happened to be that I was able to run fast enough to run third place.
Yeah, there was kind of a question that built off this a little bit, kind of more about the minutia of some of that.
Mm.
And it goes, Congrats, Keely. Would really love to hear about how you actually balance school and training. Okay, we've talked a little bit about this, about kind of your training going in and where you had to like push versus pull. They said, as someone with a very busy schedule, I'm always curious to get in the weeds on the minutia of how people balance schedules. Like, what are the adjustments you make? How do you manage personal relationships? And so maybe that's kind of that
Hmm.
next bridging piece.
Yeah, I'd love to hear your guys' input on this too, but I am not that adaptable of a person during the week, and it makes me feel really stressful. Like if I get a text from an athlete or a text from someone and they're like, "Hey, I'm in Portland. Can I see you tomorrow?" And most of the time I have to say no, and it brings me a little bit of stress, but it's because I plan out my week kind of to a T, like a week in advance. And obviously, like there's a little bit of flex to it. I try not to be too tied down to every single minute of every single day, but I have it pretty planned out to the T. And so it's like, yeah, I know I have to run during this block. If I don't run then, it's not going to happen. That's the time of the day that I'm in control of. If I wait to run at 6 p.m. after a clinic, I might not get out of surgery or clinic until 9 p.m. and then I'm probably not running. And so it just takes a lot of like forward thinking and planning and yeah, like also saying no to some things, which is a bummer. But I think I'm lucky in the sense that I also try to make time for those things, but I schedule them in. So it's like, luckily a lot of my girlfriends I get to see because they're runners, but I also am okay doing something on a weekend if I plan for it, because then I can plan my whole schedule around it. And I plan date night with JT because I plan my whole schedule around it. And so it's like you can do all these things, but my schedule's pretty strict, which allows me to not be very flexible, but it does allow me to do more things because then I'm just like always planning around all these things that I want to fit in. But it's definitely not, it is not easy. That is for sure. And some weeks I have, little freakouts to JT and I feel like I'm not doing anything 100%. I'm like, oh, I'm not being a great partner. I'm not being great at running. I'm not being good at school. And I have those weeks too where you are like almost like paralyzed because you don't feel like you're doing them all really well. But those weeks pass and then you get a little more, of the infamous balance and you feel like maybe you're balancing it a little bit better the next week. But yeah, it takes some discipline, at least for me, how my brain works. I need to have everything scheduled.
Oh yeah, I mean, my Google Calendar is crazy because I like definitely, if I don't forward think when I'm gonna run, it like yeah, it becomes a really short run in my neighborhood
Hmm.
because it's like just not gonna happen because it didn't happen, at 6 a.m. or whatever. So I like will literally Stephen, like we have a shared calendar. Stephen cannot see it when I do this, but I will like block like Corinne run, Corinne gym, or Corinne bike or whatever it
Hmm.
is so that like I know that I'm trying to protect that time for me. So when I get a request for a meeting or a request for a
Hmm.
call, there are times where I have to be like, yeah, like if I can bump them to the beginning or the end of this time slot, I can still
Hmm.
get in what I need type of thing. But I want to be like all laissez-faire and just like really like, yeah, like I can just roll with it. I cannot roll with it. I have no chill, zero chill. And the partner thing's like that's another complication. Like my husband's a medical resident and we did the he's a nocturnist for 5 months in this EM block. And we did the math and we have not gone to bed at the same time, i.e., he's been working nights or I've been out of town. It was 23 days in a row in April.
Whoa.
We're like, in theory, we might have both been sleeping at the same time, but that's because he'd like come off shift at 4 a.m.
Right,
and
right.
like get into bed, and then I'd wake up at 6 a.m. or whatever and be like, bye. So
Yeah.
I feel it. Hillary, what about you? How's the old flexibility or not in the busy life go?
Oh no, I have like I live by my Google Calendar, absolutely. Like I color code it. I have like I write to-do lists every day. I mean, for instance, just like today. I mean, I came back from the Bay Area and, I was taking meetings in the car on the way to the airport and then, like using the time wisely during like the downtime of like doing all this other stuff that I have to do so I don't lose it while I'm traveling. And then, I'm spending all day and it's great. I'm spending all day with with this company that I've been working with and I'm as part of that, I'm leading a run at 7:30 and then I'm leading a workshop and then spending time with everyone until 11 p.m. that night. And so my only time, and I'm leading a 5K run, right? So my only time to run would be 6 in the morning. And then if I get in at 11 p.m., it's kind of like, okay, that's kind of what this weekend looked like. And then, this morning waking up and my only option to run was if I was getting up at 5 to get out the door at 5:30 or 5:45. So, yeah, and it comes in obviously waves. I think it's all of us. All of us have crazy schedules and everything that we're balancing and everything that we're doing. But I do the same thing. I block out time on my Google Calendar like a week in advance of being like, okay, this is what I'm doing. I even do the social times too. But like for me, what happens is I need some like revamping time alone. So a lot of the times I'm like my friends know, I'm like, okay, I'm sorry, I don't have the energy to do this tonight. Or I tell them in advance, I'm like, hey, I have a really crazy day. There's a chance that we might have to adjust this. And then, that's to my detriment, like I could use some more social time and you know, that time that's not spent working, right? But sometimes I just have to be like, okay, I just need to like zen out and like stare at a blank wall and not do anything.
Yeah, Hillary's gonna cancel on your potluck. So just, cut her some slack, okay? She's tired.
I really want to go.
Yeah. John Ray, I'm sorry. We'll work on it. Um, I know no inside baseball. It's fine. I'm just like making guesses at this point. No, Ellie Pell. I don't know if Ellie Pell will listen to this. If she does, that's where I get all of my gossip from. Um, okay. Thinking about sponsorship stuff, because that was probably the next biggest question we got because it was a huge change for you this year, right? Like you
Hmm.
were offered like a renewal of your contract and you're like, I don't have the time or energy. This is not going to bring me joy this year. It's only going to add stress to my plate. So, yeah, you struck that from the books. It's a super interesting move. It clearly is going okay. So we want to talk about that a little bit. And so starting broadly, I guess, and then maybe we'll get into some of the minutia about like sponsorship demands versus, like having help with travel is really nice type of thing. So to start, just like the first question is, congrats, Keely. How has no longer being a sponsored runner changed how you run and race? So that could be, I guess, um, emotionally, but that could also be like the nuts and bolts of the business side of running and
Hmm.
racing, right? Like the sport costs money.
Yeah. Yeah, I'll start with the mental side, and I've been reflecting on this really recently, so this is a new thought, so it might not be super cohesive, but I think you guys will get the point. So I think my running journey it's been quite long. I've been in the sport for a decade. I think it started off where I was running for myself, but it was a negative reason. It was like because I thought I needed to suffer. It was because I thought I needed to change my body. I thought I needed to do all these things. It was a negative thing that fueled my ability to push in these really long races. Then, you have some success. You slowly start to maybe run for a little bit of the positive sides, but you're still a little bit negative. Then all of a sudden you get a sponsorship. And then you're running for something else. You're running for quote unquote fame. Fame is very funny in this sport because
Validation.
it's very small. Validation. You're running for the other brand. You're trying to make people happy. You're running for other people. And I think I kind of got swept up into that for a little bit. And now I'm running for myself, and that's it. And I'm not running for myself in a negative way. And JT and I talked about this the other day, and I'm running for myself in a positive way because I want to. And you can run for yourself in a positive way and be really happy and like let that be your fuel too. It doesn't have to be some sort of self-sabotage out there. It can be like you're just trying to get the best out of yourself. And that's really fun. And I think it took me going on this journey for myself and backing off from the things that brought me a lot of anxiety to be able to even articulate that, let alone, run that way. And it's not like I've nailed it already, but that's just the thoughts I've been having. And that's really what it felt like out there during the race. Like when it got hard, I had to take a second and ask myself, like, what am I going to be proud with? And it wasn't like, who's going to be proud of me? What sponsor's going to be proud of me? I was like, what am I going to be proud at? And I'm going to be proud if I fought all day. And that's the only thing that I'm going to be proud about. And so it was a really cool like change in mentality and it made me run way harder than I definitely ever have. And it didn't feel as bad as it normally did. So that was like really cool mental shift. And so I think mentally it's changed a lot. I think like talking from a like feasibility perspective or like a product perspective, it's also changed a lot because, now I pay my way as a med student to go to these races. And trail running's not a cheap sport. I mean, yeah, you put a pair of shoes on, you can go, but you also have required gear lists and you need fuel and you need hydration and you need travel and transport. And, luckily I did keep one of my sponsors this year. I kept GU because I've been with them since 2015 and I love their product. So to me, like a no-brainer to stay with them. They've also been so supportive from the get-go. They do really cool research and all these things. But aside from them, I don't have any other support. And so that's changed things too for like the negative in the sense that now I really have to be tactful with where I go to race and how many races I do and who I can take as a crew because I can't really afford to bring people anymore.
Turns out I'm a great backup crew.
Yeah, right. And then, but the positive side is I can run in whatever I want. And I don't feel like I have to run in anything. Like I can wear the shoe that feels the best on my foot. I can wear the shirt that I think is the cutest. I can wear, whatever I want. And I kind of love that too because it's so different than everyone else I'm racing against who are all in, kind of uniforms. And that's been me for 7 years. But it's cool to just be like, oh, I want to wear this and I'm going to wear that because it's cool.
Yeah, I there was a comment that came through and it was literally, why is Keely just the cutest freaking ever? And I was like, yeah, that's our girl. But I think you did a good job talking about like both the mental side and the I used to describe it as, is it emotionally sustainable and is it financially sustainable? And I experienced this with my time on the US biathlon team. When I was on the team, it was financially sustainable because, I had US Olympic Committee housing. I basically lived in a old folks home for athletes. Like there were 3 meals a day. Like my travel was team travel. It was a very basic living. I wasn't making money, but everything was paid for. When I left the team and then lost my funding, um, I left because it needed to be emotionally sustainable for me to stay in
Mm-hmm.
the sport. I couldn't stay in the environment I was in without knowing that I'd quit the sport. So I wanted to give myself a chance and I left and it was emotionally sustainable for me to leave, but it was not financially sustainable to do this sport. Well, all of a sudden, like the travel was expensive and I didn't have any of that backing to make it. I literally got an anonymous donation to send me to the first half of Olympic trials
Mm-hmm.
in 2012, 2013, whenever that was, an eon ago. And I couldn't have gone to trials without that anonymous donation to get me from Bozeman, Montana to Jericho, Vermont. And
Mm-hmm.
so it's like this very interesting thing where like you can't bite the hand that feeds you, but at the same time,
Yeah.
like you have to be in a space where you are excited to do the sport that you're supposed to do because you love it.
Mm-hmm.
So I've seen that journey with you, and it makes me very happy to watch you run in a way that it feels very inspiring.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think one more thing on that note is just it makes me really excited what we're going to do with Rabbit to get more people on the start lines of races that are shorter because I do think that 30K races, 20K races are reasonable for people to do. It doesn't require you run for, 10 hours a week. It requires reasonable training. It's like not a super expensive race entry. And I think if we can get more people in the sport that way, to me, that feels so much more tangible now seeing like just how expensive everything is. And obviously I've known how expensive it is, but just like being right in it and being like, okay, I make med school money, like this is gonna be a stretch. I can see how it's not like an achievable sport for a lot of people.
Isn't med school money negative money?
Yes.
The quote unquote only money we made during medical school was our Stephen's student
Student loans,
loans
which are
for
negative.
to offset our housing costs. Like that was our money that we made during medical school that we're
Yeah.
now paying
So
back.
yeah. Yeah.
That's
But
amazing.
yeah.
Oh, that was so made me so happy. I love that idea of like what makes me proud, what's gonna make me proud. And then we also like ran into like your athletes that had like finished the
I know
50K.
there were so many of them there.
We could not get Keely changed because we just kept running into people. And JT and I were like, okay, come on, we're gonna put you in this building and get you into dry clothes. And you were like, then a new person would appear. And Keely's like in a space blanket, like shivering, but also just like so excited to see your athletes. And I think about that too, of like, what's gonna make me proud? What am I gonna be able to share with the people around me, with my athletes that I coach? Like that is, I think that can be very satisfying in a way that doesn't feel like obligation.
Hmm. Yeah,
I love it.
totally.
We talked about distraction already, so I think we're in a good spot with that. So I guess we'd like to actually talk about the race that you ran. You know, that whole thing, this whole thing that ended in a golden ticket, which is so exciting. So to kick things off, we'll keep it super easy. And people really wanted to know, how are the ankles?
Ankles are great. Didn't twist them at all.
Yay!
Didn't
Yeah.
fall, didn't twist ankle, didn't dislocate shoulder. We're good.
Yeah. All the typical Western states drama didn't happen.
Yep.
Good.
Success.
Good. You ran through the zone. There's a zone before Keely got to Michigan Bluff where a couple Western states ago, her day ended due to a really bad ankle sprain. For those of you who are unaware of Keely's storied injury history at the long one. So you cleared that section in flying
Mm-hmm.
colors.
Yeah, and then I cleared the shoulder section, which was a little more mentally challenging than the ankle one because I'd already cleared the ankle one, a couple years ago. The shoulder one was a little more strange, but it was actually like the most exciting thing ever. When I got to the river, I was like, "Oh, I passed it and we're fine. This is awesome."
You're like, I'm upright and all of my joints are where they're supposed to be. I love it. So expectations were also a question, and it came up here. And this ties into medical school, it ties into balance, it ties into your change in sponsorship status. And I think that's really a cool way to like summarize like the conversations that you and JT have been having, for example.
hmm
And so the question is, what were Keely's expectations and goals going into the race? With her being so busy with med school life and running, did she have any self-doubt or fear at reaching for those goals? If so, how did she face that doubt or fear?
Yeah, I mean, I think I told you guys back when I first signed up for Canyons that I wanted to get a ticket, but I think that for a really long time, I was unable to kind of like tell that goal to anyone else because I was still so scared about all the past, where it's like you put this audacious goal out there and then it ends in tragedy. And so I was super scared from that perspective. And also, obviously, when you're training against people who get to run as their full-time job, you also don't know if you're going to be fit enough to be able to hang with them. But again, I just had so many like nice like framings of a lot of my mental status lately that's really helped me kind of like put into perspective like what I'm doing. And so going into the race, talking with JT like a couple days before, we were like, we're gonna go for it. And we gotta put myself out there early because the fields are fast now and nobody really dies. And so you just gotta go for it and like conserve yourself because you don't want to also gun it because you don't have the luxury of having a ticket. But like put yourself out there, run conservative, but run hard and push yourself like the whole time and see how that goes. And yeah, I think that's what I did, but that doesn't mean it was easy. Like definitely, you know, there's times during the race where I had to reframe that again and be like, no, I belong here. I feel good. Like we can keep pushing.
Yeah, it was wild. There was very little attrition in the women's race. Really, the biggest attrition was, I think, Jasmine Lowther dropping
Mm-hmm.
out of driver's flat.
And Katie.
Um, yeah, Katie Asmuth kind of like just recognizing that like her quads weren't ready to hang, but she still finished in
Mm-hmm.
11th.
Yeah.
Got that auto qualifier because the
Mm-hmm.
index scores were so good. So
Oh,
you guys are
nice.
all good.
Nice.
Yeah,
Cool.
everyone's good for at least through 11th through Katie,
Cool. Wow.
qualified for CCC for 2026, which is
Nice.
dope. I think like at least the top 10, if not a little bit more on the men as well, qualified,
Cool.
which is awesome. Men's attrition, a lot bigger on
Mm-hmm.
race day. Um, this next question is amazing, and I'm going to try to read it with their energy. They said, I want to hear about all the things she did perfectly out there, obviously, but I'd also be really interested to hear if anything went wrong or if there were things where she learned something and she'd like to take that with her to Western states to improve upon. And i.e., the TLDR, the too long didn't read. Any takeaways from the mini states of things to do better for the full big states?
Okay, well, first of all, don't put any sort of sweatpants on that were with you at the finish line after getting rid of the tech new stuff because you'll get poison oak over your whole body. So that's the one thing. But on a more serious note, I think nothing went super wrong, but there were some really low moments.
Mm.
And so I think that still counts as like something going wrong because you have to fight just like you would if something went wrong. And so I'd say there's a section on Cal Street that I'm used to running during states, right? Where there are aid stations every 3 miles.
Yeah, you
And
guys only got Cal 2, which
we
is
only had
brutal.
one. And so we had a 10-mile section, an aid, a 10-mile section, an aid, a 10-mile section. And, if you're going in a negative space there and you can't see people in front of you or behind you, it's easy to kind of like spiral. And so going up to driver's flat after that really long section, I was in a pretty low spot. It was probably the lowest spot I'd been in the race and really the first low spot I'd been in. And I got passed by Aaron Clark there. And I was like, man, I don't think I put in enough training for this. Like, I don't think I can do this. I think I should just slow down. And for that next half mile to the aid, I was just kind of trudging. I was like in my old mental state of like, all right, well, I guess I'll just go this pace because it's a little less painful. And clearly, like, I'm not doing something right. But then I go into the aid and I like pull out the bottles. JT like and Corinne are there and they're like, "How are you feeling?" I was like, "I'm not like I'm tired. It's
We're like,
hard."
you're doing great. You're amazing.
Yeah. And then JT just says like, "But you can push." And I was like, yeah, okay. And I don't know what it was, but like that like resonated with me. And then like I left the aid and like maybe half a mile later, I had the kind of conversation with myself of if I hold this pace now, will I be happy with myself when I finish? And I just kept coming back to like, no, I've been working hard all day. Like, keep working hard, like, push harder. It's not gonna like hurt any less, like, this is still not very fun, but I know I can push harder than I'm doing. And so I just was able to like flip that mental switch and like dig really deep, even though I didn't really want to, but it was because I had to reframe it to like what I wanted to be proud of at the end. And so, yeah, I'd say that. And then aside from like keeping on biting off the nibs off my bottles and having the water squirt everywhere, I don't feel like I
I
did anything
hate
else wrong, but
that.
they just need to figure that out. I don't know what's going on with those
I
lately.
I have some newer bottles and I feel like they're particularly bad with
Yeah,
it. And it's like if I don't like lift the bottle to my face, if I
yeah.
do any sort of pull, I'm just like shooting whatever drink mix I have in there just
Yeah.
into my eyeballs. And it's like
Yeah.
everything is wet. It's awful.
Yeah, so I don't know. Any tips there? I don't think there are any, but I kept doing that. So I needed to maybe figure that out for states too. But yeah, I
Yeah,
think I think a lot
precious
of
water
just
at
good
States.
memories to take to states and like I know that I finished with a lot of gas in the tank, so I know I can like push hard at states and that's really exciting to have new memories and also, finish running all of Roby Point and feeling good.
Yeah, so just a little insight on this for those listening, because I got to talk to Erin Clark and her crew and Keely at the finish, and I was like, oh my goodness, the Gaylords saw Erin at Confluence, and we're like, oh my goodness, she was doing this weird Scandinavian grunting thing. And I told the Missoula crew that I was like, oh, Erin's charging, like she's closing to Marianne, like it's crazy, and the Gaylords are like she's grunting, and Jeff McGavra's like, oh yeah, that's the Missoula grunt, like we all do it. And then I like tell Keely this, and Keely's like, "Oh my goodness, I sounded like a tennis player out there. I was just like grunting the entire time." And then you went on to run every single step of the climb to Roby Point because you were like, "I've got to do this," and that is next level madness and just insane, like absolutely insane.
It was super fun. Yeah. And then, I mean, it was like a really good
Disgusting.
validation because I felt like I was running pretty hard. And I was like, man, maybe I'm not. And then I come around that last corner and I see her and I'm like, okay, I was running pretty hard. Like,
It was
cool.
wild.
Yeah, it was
JT and I were at
fun.
the finish, and we did not know who was going to be the third lady to
Hmm.
come through. We thought it was going to be Aaron. We assumed it was going to be Aaron, and then we're like,
Hmm.
okay, like Keely and Kareth Arnold are going to be in this battle. Like Kareth looked also kind of worked at driver's flat, but you
Hmm.
guys left there not that far apart, and we
Yeah,
were
like
like,
a
oh
minute or minute and a
shit.
half or
We're like,
something.
this is
Hmm.
real. Like, and I was like, I knew Kareth was like maybe so on the ticket, but I was just like, ah. And then all of a sudden, Keely rounds the corner to the finish chute in third, and JT and I are just like, okay, we can like take a deep breath now because like she did it. Like she got it done. But you didn't cause us any stress or duress out there. It was totally fine. We were super chill.
Well, the
Um,
tracking was pretty bad too, so you guys had no
we
clue.
had no idea. Yeah, the
Yeah.
timer, the chips for the bibs all got stuck in customs. And so
Mm.
they were running a secondary, like a backup timing system. And that's
Mm.
like no one's fault. Like
Hmm.
we have a political system right now that's not super helpful when it comes to tariffs and customs imports. So um, yeah, that was very unfortunate, but it was causing us a lot of duress out there in a big way. I'd love to touch on this strategy question
Mhm.
briefly, hit nutrition, and then talk about the gear that you ran in for race day
Okay.
because we got a lot of gear questions, and then hit Society Slam, round this bad boy out. So strategy question is, and you talked about this a little bit, like, oh my goodness, was I not prepared? Was I not as prepared as I thought I was? Like Aaron just passed me. So the question is, how do you balance running your own race versus racing other runners? The longer the distance, the riskier racing others, I assume. But also these days in the elite field, you can't just run your own race and count on people
Mhm.
fading towards the end. So curious to hear your thoughts on this.
Yeah, so I think, yeah, kind of for my previous thought, I was like, I need to put myself out there. I can't sit back in 10th or 11th place in these kind of fields anymore. So I need to start out with the front. And I was like, but I'm going to be smart. And if they're running something ridiculous, I'm not going to sit with them because I don't have the luxury of having a ticket. And I knew that like some of the girls racing did. And so, yeah, you can't, I just kind of trusted that I was going to run hard and run fast enough. But that's not always like necessarily easy. But yeah, so I definitely didn't try to get caught up in the race. The one time that I did, I was running with Marianne because Marianne, Emily, everyone, we were all pretty close in the beginning, like a minute or two or whatever between all of us. You could see a lot of people. And it was dark and they were running so fast in the dark on the most technical part of the trail. I'm not the greatest technical runner. I will admit that. And so I definitely was trying to hang with Marianne, who's a phenomenal downhiller. And I like kicked a little bit of something and was like, ooh, okay, like we're not doing that. What am I doing? Like, run your own race. You are running hard enough. And then got immediate validation once we got to the first climb. And I was like 30 seconds back. I could see every single person in front of me. And I was like, okay, I might not be able to hang with some of them on the downhills in this early section when it is a little more technical. That doesn't mean I'm running too slow. Like, I am running what is smart for me and what's going to keep me on my 2 feet, what's going to keep me feeling good, what feels really comfortable. And I'm still like, my uphill is my strength and like I can catch them quite well on the uphills. And so I just need to be like confident in that. So yeah, I think you really do have to run your own race, but you do have to put yourself out there a little bit because again, people don't fade as much in the sport anymore. And so like I was like, okay, I need to be top five, like to be able to be in the ticket contention spot so that I like can pick people off if I have the legs and not feel like I have to be pulling away from like the last ticket spot, right? Like being like, oh no, hopefully I can hold this. So yeah, but it's tricky these days. So yeah, I think states will be a similar strategy of just like trust what you're doing is enough. Keep pushing yourself, like your fitness is good enough to hang in there and just keep pushing.
Yeah, the women's states race is interesting because we will crown like a first time
I
champion, and
know.
there's
Weird.
no clear like
Mm-hmm.
Courtney, Katie, like
Mm-hmm.
a gym-esque figure in the
Right.
women's field.
It's gonna
Like
be
it is,
really freaking cool
it's gonna be
Yeah.
and really
so
hard.
freaking cool. I am like,
Like a
everyone's talking about the
proper
men's
foot
race.
race.
No, no, no. The women's race is gonna be fire emojis. It's gonna be amazing.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Um, because we talk about nutrition a lot and it's our passion project of us, we do have to touch on nutrition briefly.
Mm.
And you've mentioned goo already. So this person writes in, hello, big fan of the pod and all you girls. I got to cross paths with Keely on the Deadwood out and back. So cool to see her in action. How did she handle the weather conditions? We can kind of skip that maybe, but specifically the weather conditions, did it affect your nutrition strategy at all? And did you have to pivot from anything?
Mm-hmm. I mean, it was really cold. I don't know how Emily and Marianne ran in tank tops like most of the race. I was frozen, but so I definitely missed a couple gels midway through when I got really cold when I saw
Oh yeah, we
Corinne
like
at
we
Forest
stole
Hill.
gloves from
Yeah.
Chris Myers to try to give them to you at
Hmm.
Driver's Flat if we needed to.
Yeah, so I missed a couple gels there, but I luckily then had gotten a Roctane and I downed that whole thing in between Michigan Bluffs and Forest Hill and then downed the next Roctane really quickly too. So I caught up pretty quickly and then everything warmed up and I was able to like use my hands and be back at it again. But it didn't affect my strategy at all. I had the same strategy from the get-go. I was aiming for like 60 to 70 grams of carbs an hour between Roctane, which is like a carbohydrate drink, and gels. And I always had another bottle of plain water as well. And just kind of rotated between that at the aid stations. And then when I got to an aid without Roctane, I just got water. Ideally, at States, I'll probably get electrolytes because Goose sponsors States. And so they have the good stuff. But yeah, so I'd say like always just kept it kind of the same and the fueling worked really well. But I'd been fueling like that every single training run. Like any training run 2 hours or longer, I've been doing the exact same thing for the previous 3 weeks, starting at Big Alta, where I'd been really dialing it in. And so it didn't feel like that strange to me because it'd been what I'd been doing, every single race or every single run.
I love that so much. Yay, big nutrition wins. Yeah, shout out to Angie who was at the Forest Hill aid station. She was clutch and making a quick change there.
Hmm. Yeah, it was so
Okay.
nice.
I think we should touch on gear briefly and then we'll wrap things up with Society Slam. So gear, gear, gear. People, one, loved your pink glasses. They thought that they were both badass and cute. But wondering, they were clear lenses. So they're wondering, were they helpful in other ways? Windscreen for rain, prescription, eye strain, fatigue. Did they just look really cool? Tell us about the glasses. And then people want to know what shoes you ran in as well.
I think this question is so funny because the glasses were just because the race qu required glasses.
For the
But I
mandatory
didn't
kit.
want to scratch my nice glasses in my pack. So I was like, well, I'll just wear them, whatever. Like I've worn them for one race before and they were fine. I would have worn them as sunglasses if it was sunny, but it wasn't sunny. So yeah, I wore the clear lenses. I thought they were cool. They worked fine. Um, Sometimes I wish I could wash the water off them actually. Once it started being more windy rain, they got a little bit covered in water and it wasn't quite as nice, but I never had to take them off. They were totally fine. And they are Smith Bobcats, like in pink. And the lens for sun is like a polarized pink lens, and I love them. You can just pop the lens in and out. But yeah, I literally wore them because I didn't want to put them in my pack with all that other stuff and like risk them getting beaten up. And I don't know. I love my Smiths, so I didn't want to break them. Um, and shoes, I wore the Nike Pegasus Trail, so pretty much a road to trail shoe. And it felt great. I can get it in a size half size bigger than my normal foot size. Because Nike does like extended sizings for people with really big feet, which most brands don't do. So I can get a women's 11 and a half. And it's just that extra little bit that my toes need to not get just destroyed by my shoes. And I really like them. I mean, in Portland, it's a great shoe because I'm running from my house on roads to trails, and the Portland trails aren't super technical, and it held up in the high country too. So I really like them. I'll probably wear them for states too.
I was like, I didn't know that they didn't make 11 and a half. Like I'm a 7 and a half. So like the world's
Yeah.
my oyster.
Yep.
Like every company has shoes for me. So
Most companies do not. Nike does in most of their shoes now, but it's the bigger companies that will, and most of the smaller ones don't. They'll go like 11 to 12, and 12s are just enormous on my feet. So
interesting. Any
yeah.
other gear that you were excited about? We obviously saw you in that UPF sun hoodie at the finish line. You're pink on pink. It was
Mhm.
great. But any other gear that you were excited about out there?
Um, Not really. I mean, I wore my ballerina socks, so super high compression socks I feel like are great for ankles
I was gonna
and
say, yeah, tell us a
for the
little bit.
dry
I've
time.
heard you talk about the ballerina socks, but people will be unfamiliar. So just pitch the ballerina socks to the audience and then we'll let you stop talking.
Yeah, so I think they're called Apollo socks. And if I'm wrong, I'll correct this in the show notes. But my mom got them off of the the shopping channel, like after States in 2022.
That's so cute.
And she sent me them, and I've been a convert ever since. Like they're meant for ballerinas that have bad ankles because they're super high compression. But I've been wearing them for running ever since, and I really like them. They just came out with a hot pink pair, so that was perfect.
Sign
That's what
me
I wore
up.
for the race. Yeah.
I'll have to take a
So I really like
gander.
them. If you have bad ankles and you are looking for that little extra support, again, not sponsored by them. I buy them with my own money. I think they're awesome and they're not like super high compression and they like don't chafe or anything. So they actually work like a really good sock.
I love it. Yeah, she's using those medical school loans to buy these hot pink socks, guys. So keep that in mind when you go to purchase a pair. Um, well, sweet. We're so proud of you, and it was so exciting to get to watch you race, and we can't wait to cheer you on at Western States. It's gonna be
It's gonna
really
be
super sick.
fun. Yeah.
Ah, okay. Well, speaking of gear, again, Rabbit, we're going to be hanging out with them, throwing down with them at Tiger Claw this upcoming weekend. This episode will come out Tiger Claw week, just in 2 days' time. And if you would like to go rep any of that super sick rabbit gear, you're going to go over to the website, runningrabbit.com, and you are going to use the code TrailBunny10 at checkout to get 10% off, something nice, something floral printed, something pretty. You're gonna look just as cute as Keely. It's gonna be amazing. Yeah, if you can get your hands on their mother runner flower stuff, it's super, super sick. Keely was running around in the high country kind of half sip pullover, and it looked very nice.
It was very cute. I got two compliments on the trail run.
Oh, we love a trail run compliment. Speaking of, Keely, will you take this first one because it does talk
Uh,
about that sun shirt?
sure. Okay, First Society Slam says, hey, hi, hello. I've been hearing you talk about the Rabbit UPF deflector shirt on the pod. I will be running my first ultra this summer, either a 12-hour or an 8-hour in August in the Northeast. So it could very easily be sunny in 80s or 90s. I'm definitely not a sun girly when it comes to running. Okay. Do you think this shirt would be something that would be helpful? I usually run in as little as possible, but have heard that in an ultra, if the sun is out, that might not be the best bet. Thank you so much. Love, love, love listening to the pod. It's like running with friends. No, we're glad that we can be your friends on your runs. This is a great question because you're throwing in a little bit of a curveball here with the humidity of the Northeast. But I do think that especially if it's an exposed course, I think that the UPF shirt would actually help a lot. And then you just would want to keep yourself wet the whole time. And I'll let Corinne, more like heat physiology pro here, comment on that. But I'm pretty sure like if you had that on and kept it wet the whole time, that would be a lot more helpful. And that's what you'd do in dry too, but I think especially in the humidity.
Yeah. Yeah, you use that wetness for like basically it's like it helps to with
Evaporative cooling.
evaporative cooling. I was like conduction? That's the wrong word.
No.
It's 7 p.m. on a Sunday, and I've had 3 sips of wine this podcast. But yeah, evaporative cooling works when you're not in humid environments. The Northeast, not as good as that. But you could also experiment with like sun sleeves as well. There's no brand specific for that, but they make these really lightweight, very stretchy sun sleeves. And basically the idea of covering your skin when you've got a lot of direct sun exposure for a long period of time is that sunburn is inflammatory and it's super dehydrating.
Mhm.
And so being able to remove that heat strain and that heat stress from your body is really important, particularly when you're going, 4, 5, 6, 10, 20 hours out there. That can be a good friend for you. So yes, I would say that that would be a great option.
I
I'll
love
take
the
this.
second one. Take the second
Yeah,
one.
I'll take the second one because it speaks to my heart. Hey, you all, Sacramento-based recreational runner here who became a fan of the sport and redefined my relationship with carbs literally because of you guys in Trail Society. That's really special. I could go on about that, but today I'm sliding into the DMs to briefly thank you for the race coverage, both on the pre-post race Freetrail shows and regularly on the pod. It's so motivating and helps me feel like I'm right there, even when I can't be part of it on the day. I'll be depending on you this year because my sister has scheduled her wedding on the day of Western States
Oh
and
no.
her bridal shower on the day of Canyons this past weekend. Figured you were some of the only people I know who would understand this in a quote groaning way. Anyway, keep the race coverage coming as uh blah blah blah. As you think of me refreshing the live stream while my sister walks down the aisle. LOL, just kidding. I would say maybe just kidding. This is when you take lots of bathroom breaks to check the live coverage. Congrats to Keely and Amazing Canyons. Recover well. Thank you. We will keep the live broadcast stuff coming. I'm having like the most fun ever doing it. So I'll be doing 10 days in a row between Broken Arrow and Western
Oh,
States. So
amazing.
we've got like 2 hours of stuff for you every day so you can binge it. It's going to be awesome. Okay, Haley, take this last one for us.
Says, hi, love your podcast. I look forward to it every other Tuesday. I have a question about sleep after long or hard efforts. After those, I tend to have pretty restless sleep, which I've heard is common. I also know how rest is important for recovery. So, do you have any strategies for better sleep after long or hard runs? Thanks for all that you do. Yeah, so I mean, I've actually had that after races, definitely. I think partially for me it could be if like extra caffeine. But something that I've done after a longer run, particular harder effort, is to prioritize, even if I do this in the morning or, it's like if you finish in the afternoon for like a long run, making sure I prioritize replenishing food in the form of like, obviously eating or a protein shake and then the liquids, and then I let myself fully like cool down, shower, do everything I need, and then I do like a round of stretching, like static stretching is always better, but I also do that before bed. And just having like a good wind down routine, it tends to help me just kind of like calm my nervous system down.
Yeah, I was gonna say if I run anything over 80K, I am a hot mess when it
Mm.
comes to sleeping. I'm just like kind of wired. And I don't think it's caffeine for me because I'm like not a big caffeine and race
Mhm.
user for the most part, at least not historically. Maybe that's gonna be my new thing this year. We can play with it. But I just think that it's like your nervous system is like pretty hyped. And then also again, Nikki Burma, who I ran with today, who will listen to this week and then text me about it, which is amazing. Has like had to share a bed with me after Western States both years. And she's like, Corinne, I just wake up to you whimpering. Like you're like
Mhm.
sort of asleep and just whimpering the whole time. And it's because like my muscles are still like actively trying to fire, despite the fact that we are done running 100 miles.
Mhm.
And so I think it's just like hard to get comfy sometimes after that initial muscle damage. So getting that shower and getting that food in and then just doing your best and not stressing so much on that first night or two when sleep does not come as easy, but also trying to schedule rest into your day, be it a nap, be it just like relaxing and getting your legs up.
Mhm.
Um, it is going to take some time to recoup the loss after a big hard effort. And so just like roll with it a little bit. Keely, you are in the post week
Mhm.
sleep craziness. Your poison oak is not helping with that, I'm sure. So what have you been doing this week to prioritize recovery?
Um, yeah, so man, I mean, I'm not the best at this either. The first night after the race is always the hardest. Don't sleep super well, especially for me, races over 10 hours. Since then, though, I've been trying to do like showers before bed, especially with the poison oak, like where you kind of set. And then I keep the room super, super cold. And I wear like super loose clothing because I feel like the tight stuff like really just is like tight on your muscles, tight on all things. Like that's not very good. And yeah, I try to also just like really don't put any stress on when I go to bed. So it's like when I'm tired, I start getting ready for bed. I might read and then I try to go to bed once I'm super tired, but I'm not like gonna make myself go lay in bed at 8:30 if I'm not tired, because then I know I'll just be stressed laying there trying to go to sleep. Yeah, and then I'd say I've been taking a lot of my classes on the couch this week, which normally I stand for most of them. And so if you can't sleep a ton, don't stress, kind of like what we've always said. Like, you'll just like take a little extra time during the days to recover. And then one thing that helps for me is honestly, like sometimes I can't sleep because I'm so hungry and I don't realize it right away. And so at midnight, sometimes I'll wake up because I can't sleep and I get out of bed and I go have a snack and I come back to bed and then I can sleep.
I legitimately woke up after UTCT and I was like, why can't I sleep? And I realized I was nauseous. And I realized I was nauseous because I was hungry. And so I couldn't walk down the stairs. And we were staying in this kind of sketchy Airbnb. Like the stairs were just like pretty steep in this old house. So I had to butt scooch down the stairs to the kitchen where I got ice cream. And then I like butt scooched back up the stairs and ate my ice cream. And then I just like that,
Totally.
off to
Yeah, no,
sleep.
it's for sure a thing.
Mhm.
So not a bad piece of advice to try too if you maybe are a little low on the calories.
Mhm.
When in doubt, eat a snack.
Yeah.
That might be, maybe we were going to put that on a t-shirt. We'll wrap things up there. We're starting to lose our collective minds on this Sunday evening. If you're listening to this and you can't sleep or you're on a run, I'd advise also eating a snack. And until next time, we'll see you out on the trails.